Made several videos in the past about Anassel Sarwar, the Labour MSP, who has an obsession with proclaiming that there's a lack of diversity in Scotland, has an obsession with proclaiming that Islamophobia is a rife problem. But when you listen to him try to explain just what he means by Islamophobia, you come to find that it's nothing short of the anti-racist rhetoric that so many so-called progressives peddle these days, such as discrimination in the hiring practice and so on and so forth. Anassel Sarwar is also responsible for playing a role in the Tackling Racism in Scottish Schools toolkit or publication that came out, something that I've made a video on about a year or two ago, which basically boiled down to implying that only white children can be racist, white boys in particular, and the glossary, well, that was a wonderful feat if ever I've seen one. You know, white privilege, whiteness, and so on and so forth. So you get the drift. This is the sort of man we're dealing with here. He's hell-bent in proving that Islamophobia is a rife issue. And of course, an inquiry has come out, and he may very well try to pretend to himself and to the crowds, the public and so on, that he's devastated and he's upset by these so-called findings that I'm skeptical of, to be honest. But let's be fair here. This is the sort of results that he was hoping to see to further his agenda, further his narrative, which we'll come to in just a second. But this call for Muslims to be persecuted and mosques to be bulldozed after hijacking Scots Islamophobia inquiry. Bigots with far-right views made vile comments about Muslims in a bid to skew the survey. Now, if you expect me to believe that that is in any way true, then it can just as easily be flipped on its head, and people could have skewed the survey with ill intentions, such as people that are peddling the same narrative as Anassel Sarwar, such as the anti-racist brigade, such as the progressives, such as the people that are hell-bent on pushing the idea that Islamophobia is an issue in Scotland. How do you know that this inquiry is in any way legitimate? Because I do find it strange how whenever these people, regardless of which element of society they're focusing on, the findings always seem to come back and reinforce what these people peddle. Now, in an ideal world, that's fair enough, but the problem that I have with that is the stuff that these people peddle, 9 times out of 10 is a load of garbage. So Labour MSP Anassel Sarwar said the far right is on the rise in Scotland. See, here we go again. Here we go again. How convenient. Now his inquiry proves the far right is on the rise in Scotland. Is it I? And across the globe. They are organising online as these sickening responses to the public inquiry show, and we can no longer dismiss them as a fringe movement. Get fucked. Revealed by the Daily Record, a public inquiry by a Holyrood group unveiled the shocking levels of Islamophobia in Scotland. Around 36% of Muslim respondents said Islamophobia was an everyday issue, with 41.3% saying it was a regular issue. 4 out of 5 said they have experienced Islamophobia, and roughly the same number said the problem is getting worse. Over 75% reported being verbally abused, and nearly 94% said they feared experiencing Islamophobia. See, there's another issue here, and I'm sorry to tell you this, Anassel Sarwar. It's not the far-right non-existent thugs and bigots. The media has got a major role to play in this. It's always been the case. But there's also another element to this. There seems to be one rule for thee and one rule for us. Even Glasgow, for example, participated in covering up asylum-seeking grooming gangs. You know, we could go on about the plethora that have been uncovered in England. You know, you can't put a foot wrong, you can't say a damn thing about what's going on. Because you're branded a bigot, you're branded far right, you're branded an extremist. But oh no, if a Muslim can't get a job, that somehow makes the fucking paper. One racist made a submission saying Muslims want to take control of our society. Islamophobia is a reasonable reaction. No comment. Another vile contributor claimed inventing a problem, Islamophobia, which barely exists, is a waste of public money. How is that a vile contribution? The bile continued. Islam is in its current form is a disgusting ideology that doesn't belong in our society because at its core it teaches division and hatred. The government keeps telling our nation that Islam is okay and accepting, but it's not. Oh my days. One individual even pointed out towards the Chinese harassment of Muslims as a model. Bulldoze all mosques, pass order in the same lines as China is doing. No beard, no mosque, no rosa, no knife, no machete. You know, when asked Sarwar's father is quite high up in the Pakistani government, or he's affiliated with a party in Pakistan, you know, the same Pakistan that's accused on the regular of Christian persecution. You know, you want to talk about that? And ask, oh no, let's talk about Muslims unable to get a job, supposedly. Our blasted, we can't be complacent. We need to challenge their hatred and prejudice. We still have a great deal of work to do to make Scotland a more tolerant and inclusive society, and this is a fight for all of us. So that's so. The public inquiry into Islamophobia in Scotland, I'm not entirely sure if this is the one that they're referring to, but I mean, it's not exactly the most informative. It's rather vague, to say the least. Survey about Islamophobia in Scotland. To what extent do you consider Islamophobia to be an issue in Scottish society? You got 4 choices. Do you think Islamophobia is getting worse, staying the same, or declining in Scotland? Getting worse, staying the same, declining. What barriers, if any, do you think Islamophobia causes in Scotland? Have you ever directly experienced Islamophobia? If yes, what form did it take? Verbal abuse, physical assault, social media, damage to buildings, at work, at school, at college, other. If you are directly experienced Islamophobia, did you report it to the police? And again, this is another issue that I take with this, because so often these people will say that it's actually a lot worse than it is, but so many people don't report it to the police. Well, then it can't be included in any formulation of a conclusion. I think Islamophobia has an impact on the educational outcomes of Muslims. I mean, Jesus, so if they click yes, that all of a sudden adds to the results. How can this be taken seriously? Where's the proof of any of this? It's all anecdotes. You're quite prepared to sit there for accusations about that so-called far-right racists and bigots are skewing the results, or attempted to, but the same can't be said about the people that have an agenda like an asshole Sarwar.